Hello, people, and welcome to the show. It is Thursday night, and we have so much to talk about. But before we get to it, I want to thank you for supporting the show, and also ask you to tell all your friends, your family, your neighbors, your crew, your posse, your book club, your church family, anybody you know who will listen to you to support the show. Like, subscribe, share, retweet, anything that you do on social media that can help spread the word will truly be appreciated. So tonight we're going to talk about Ted Cruz's frolic and detour to Cancun and how he has gotten caught once again red-handed doing something incredibly stupid. Now, just so I can set the scene for you at the moment, and for the last, week and a half or so, Texas has been under a frozen tundra. It is unusual for Texas to get really, really cold, and usually when it does get a little bit of snow, it's like a little dusting of snow, and then it warms up, and then it goes away. And so what they are experiencing now is extremely unusual. It's not just cold, it's Arctic cold, and it's sticking around. It's been sticking around, and it's gotten into the ground, and it's gotten to the pipes, and so Texas is having all these problems because the underground pipes are freezing, water pipes are freezing, their electrical grid has gone down, and this is the part of the grid that is not connected to the national FERC regulated grid, which we talked about yesterday. But in the midst of all of that, Cruz decided that she was, needing a little break. And apparently, and I'm simply repeating what I've seen on social media through the news outlets, Ms. Cruz was in a private chat in which she was inviting others to go along and guaranteed that they were going to have great accommodations, and that there was there was some implication like she could get them a flight or get them through customs or something like that. Anyway, so Ted gets caught in the airport and he gets photographed. Now, I saw photographs of Ted. I saw somebody that might have been Heidi, but I don't know how she looks well enough to know if it was her. But it was definitely him, and he didn't have police escort or anything. And he was on the plane, and he arrived in Cancun, and apparently the story broke so quickly that a Telemundo crew met him when he landed in Cancun. That's probably when it first hit him that, this may be a problem, because he probably was not getting phone calls from his staff while he was on the plane. So he lands and he gets asked a question about the propriety of his vacation. And he says, and so he starts to make up this narrative, and you can tell he's kind of making it up as he goes, where he says, the kids desperately needed to come to Cancun. And so I was just going to accompany them, and I'm going to turn around and go right back. But that clearly was not the plan. I mean, look at what kind of bag he had. That was not no overnight bag. That dude was definitely planning to stay for a couple of days. And so again, and what he didn't do was explain why his presence was needed to escort his kids to Cancun. That's bizarre. Lots of parents fly with their kids alone without the other spouse. That's weird. What is that? So instead, not only did he spend the time that he was in Texas explaining why this whole catastrophe was the result of the Green New Deal and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's fault, but then when he finally got his ass together, he decided that it was time for him to have a little R&R. Now, it's true that as a U.S. Senator, it's really not his lane to run the electrical grid or whatever. But as a U.S. Senator, and as a wealthy man, and as a person tied into the RNC money machine, there's a lot he could have done to help the people of Texas. For example, he could have organized the GOP to raise funds, or to get supplies, or to get blankets and food, or to bring generators. Weirdly, he would have gotten the idea to do that if he had paid any attention to what Beto O'Rourke has been doing this time. He's been doing wellness check-ins with seniors. He's been arranging rides to warm-up centers. He's been arranging food drops and so forth. If Ted was paying attention to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez instead of calling her out her name, he would see that just by 9 p.m. this evening, she raised $1 million for charities in Texas to help Texans weather this horrible situation. So it's the libs and it's the radical socialists that came to the rescue of Texans, while their good, strong Republican, pull them up by their bootstraps kind of guy was off entertaining himself, his wife, and his kids. And, over the next day or so, you're going to hear a whole lot of moving target target stories about what really went down here. I mean, he admits it was bad optics. That's one way of putting it. It is also really bad judgment, but basically, it's just reveals his incapacity to feel empathy for others. I mean, at some point, he said in the Telemundo little clip, he said he came down to Cancun because his house was cold and without power and water, and so the answer was to go to Cancun. Well, wouldn't every Texan want that opportunity? Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, long story short is Ted is in hot water. Is it going to mean anything in the long run? No, because the Republicans do not hold each other accountable for anything. They're not capable of it. As long as he's on Team GOP, Team GOP will protect him. But does it mean that the name of the GOP in Texas is maybe taking a hit? Quite possibly so. Quite possibly so. Interestingly enough, Fox News is not covering this stuff like this. They're deciding that this is not newsworthy. And in fact, they've invited him on to give him onto Sean Hannity's show to give him the, hey, here's your 10 minutes to tell everybody all the lies you want them to believe without being checked on it at all. And so he's going to do that. He's going to go on Fox News and he's going to tell people, a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of lies, trying to excuse himself. And they're going to tout him and tell him what a great guy he is and why this is all just cancel culture and this is AOC's doing and it's all the Green New Deal and windmills are to blame. And then they're going to sell those lies to millions of Texans whose TVs, if they are on at all, are tuned to Fox News. And more stupidity will ensue. The reason I wanted to talk about this today was not really so much to talk about the stupidity of Ted Cruz. I mean, he's still at large because he's not been indicted for fomenting an insurrection yet, and he's not going to be indicted ever if we don't eventually get an attorney general, and we're not getting an attorney general until March because so. Once again, America languishes in inaction and placing people of power above the law. And every day that they are placed above the law is an insult to us. And I don't think our elected officials understand how this is coming on. They feel like they have so many important legislative priorities. They're not really reading how frustrated and angry the people really are about how many people have gotten away with as much as they've gotten away with. And I hope the Ted Cruz situation wakes some people up to the fact that people are angry at the kind of kid gloves and deference with which we treat these incompetent, indecent, and immoral elected officials. How do they get away with this stuff? Nobody would be able to keep their job being this bad at it. It's got to frustrate you because it sure frustrates me. When are these people going to get their comeuppance? I mean, it's so overdue. It's so overdue. So, to my friends in Texas, I'm praying for you. I did do a little hour or so of calls to check in on my Texan buddies. There's a whole phone bank being set up for people who want to do wellness checks on Texans. So if you need that information, we will put that in the show. So that you can have that link and you can make calls to Texas. There are plenty of places where you can contribute money. There's all kinds of activities going on to raise money and get food and get key supplies, generators, gas, and all kinds of other stuff to the Texans. So despite the fact that Ted Cruz voted against support and help of the people who were devastated by Hurricane Sandy, and he's the only one who did, despite the fact that he was willing to say that we don't help New Jersey because it's a blue state, I am grateful that people from New Jersey and California and New York and all over the country are saying we care about what happens to Texans, whether Ted cares what happens to us or not. That's what it means to be an American. That's what it means to be a patriot. That's what it means to be the United States of America. So I got to be honest, it kind of tickles me that Ted has gotten caught in his lies. But it would tickle me a lot more if he was actually made to pay a price for them.
If you like what you just heard, you can find out so much more and hear so much more on my Patreon channel, patreon.com/Pam Keith That's where you hear the rest of this discussion, and there's lots more to share.